right, I'll let you kick it off then, Wayne. We are all set.
All right. I'm not going to wait till people start showing up. I'm hoping you're jumping on. So we're going to get going. We are going to record this video, so it will be available later for a wider distribution. But thanks very much for everyone joining us. I'm looking forward to an interesting, exciting afternoon. We're going to be hanging out with Hunt's Photography here, and they're going to give us details on the industry and details about what they're all about. But I want to give a brief update on how I ever got connected with these guys. So Hunt's Photography is out of New England. 8 stores out in New England. Is that correct, guys?
8 stores, yep.
And how would a Minnesota guy get connected with Hunt's Photography? It turns out John McGregor, who is a well-known Minnesota photographer from northern Minnesota, he teaches all kinds of seminars and he's very active. He turned me on to Hunt's. I was looking for my first set of filters, and he said, go to Hunt's for your filters. And I bought a whole filter system through them. And then a few years later, I went on a trip to Boston, and while downtown Boston, going to Fenway Park that morning, I had broken my camera the night before, or I actually got the memory card stuck in the wrong place. And I showed up at Hunt's that morning and they treated me great. And that's how they do everything they do. So without further ado, up in the top is Noah Buchanan, and down below is Gary Farber. And we have Ashley with us also. She's with our group, the Travel Photography Group. So welcome, everyone. Take it away, guys.
Awesome. Thank you for having us here, Wayne. And thanks for that great introduction. I'm really excited to be here today just to kind of introduce ourselves to everybody and to get everybody familiarized with who we are and what we're all about. Just a quick introduction of myself. Again, my name is Noah Buchanan. I've been actually working for Hunt's now for a little over 4.5 years. So it'll be coming up on 5 years this summer. I've actually been doing photography since I was 14, so a little over 11 years now, Actually went to school for photojournalism in Boston at New England School of Photography, which at the time was directly across from one of our Hunt's locations. Unfortunately, New England School of Photography is no longer around anymore, but at the time it was great because Hunt's was right across the street. Prior to actually going to school there, I wasn't really familiar with them, but I did become very familiar in my 2 years of school there, which was great, and is actually what really led me to working for Hunt's. But photography has always been a big passion of mine ever since I was a freshman in high school, and I've photographed a little bit of everything over the years. Really started off with more sports and action and really wanted to go down that field of photojournalism, and kind of quickly realized that there wasn't a lot of jobs out there in photojournalism and probably wasn't going to make much of a reasonable living to actually afford what I needed to do. So started working at Hunt's pretty soon after school, and have just enjoyed it so much that I've been here ever since, almost coming up on 5 years now, which is pretty hard to believe. Time has really flown by. But for me, photography has always been a really big passion. Now I actually do a lot of landscape and travel photography, especially when it was easier to travel and we were traveling more often. But photography in general has just been a big passion of mine. So really excited to be here today, introduce myself to you guys and talk a little bit about Hunt's. But Gary, what about you?
Wait a second. Is it possible you were in that Fenway store the day I showed up?
It was very possible. I know we were just talking about that before we went live here. I was working at that Fenway store for about a year before I transferred up here to Maine. I'm actually based just outside of Portland, Maine now. And traditionally, I'm working out of our South Portland store, but I've really been working at home pretty regularly this past year. But there's a very good chance that I was at the store that day that you came in.
You probably
and had your camera fixed. There's a possibility that I could have fixed it. I don't recall specifically, but I wouldn't put it past me.
That's great. Gary.
But,
so thank you guys for having us on. I'd like to thank Wayne and Ashley for inviting us to come on and introduce ourselves to the Facebook group. A little bit about me and a little bit about Hunt's Photo is I started working for my dad when I was 13 years old. And I've been gradually, I helped my dad out with certain things in the business. And then gradually built myself up, and my dad gave me more and more responsibility as time as time went on. One thing I always had a little battle about with my dad is I always wanted more responsibility, but in the business, but he told me I had to earn it. So
this is your dad's business? This was all your dad's business? Hunts was your dad's?
It's a family. Yeah, it's a family business. Hunts is a 5th generation. Yes.
That's amazing.
We're actually the oldest. We're actually currently right now we're the oldest camera store in the country. We're established in 1889. Yes.
That's amazing.
So anyway, so I basically did that thing, but for me, I follow my dad's footsteps. But for me, what's more important to me than just making a sale is building relationships with my customers. Me and Noah want to be there for you guys, be a resource to you, be a friend, and not just be someone come on, call you guys on the phone, say, I'd like to order this, what's your price, take your credit card, get you off the phone, and if I see you again, great. If I don't see you again, I don't really care, I made the sale. For me, it's more about, I want to be a friend, I want to be a resource, I just don't want to be a typical salesperson to you. So that's really how I straighten my business, and that's how I've always been that way. But quite frankly, COVID-19 has taught me more what life really is, and the big picture of life is just making sale after sale after sale after sale. And I think there's plenty of growth I can do in my business with providing that personalized service, a personal touch. And I don't want to be a 10-pound gorilla. I want to be a small shop with the personalized service, the personal touch. And going forward, that's how I'm going to build my business, is based on that.
And my experience with hunts at Fenway Park is exactly that.
COVID-19, I know COVID-19 has been challenging for a lot of people, and some people have not had good success of it. For me, I don't know how to say this I don't know how to really say this, but COVID-19 in some ways has been the best thing that could have happened to me, in a way that when I say that, when I describe that, is it really learned me how to, on my business level, how to think smarter, think wiser. The Zoom stuff has allowed me to open up the doors and reach so many more opportunities, so many more contacts. And also for me, it's also allowed me to build stronger working relationships with people, because when I go to a trade show person event, a lot of times a trade show person event, they don't really get a chance to see hunts. If they come to my booth, they may buy something because I have a discount, and they may never see them the rest of the show. But on Zoom, I can now be in front of a group 5, 6, 7, 8 times a year, and they get to see me, that I'm a human being. I care about my customers, and I'm not just behind a counter, I'm just trying to sell the stuff. So there's a different type of view seeing someone on Zoom than me just behind a counter. So it's really opened up the door to a lot of opportunities for me, and quite frankly, I have built stronger working relationships and more regular loyal customers through Zoom than in person, because I can do what I'm doing. So that has really opened the door. And as far as the personal level goes, it's really allowed me to really give a more perspective of what life really is. Knowing that my family really matters to me. I've developed stronger working relationships with my family. I've always had great working relationships with my nephews and nieces, but I've developed even stronger ones with them. My niece was the one that helped me got on Zoom and helped me get an Instagram account. She's 13. She's one that taught me all this. But I reconnected with my high school friends, college friends. I lost 30 pounds. I started running again. It was more just type of thing. It's perspective of life that even when things get back to normal, I'm going to continue this trend and build on it. So that's a little bit about me and how I've dealt with COVID-19 and what I've done. We'll talk more about it a little bit later, but no, I want to elaborate on that. You want to talk a little bit about how we're doing these Zoom presentations, what we've been doing on Zoom virtual events. When we go back to doing in-person events, how we're going to go about and doing. Why don't you start with that first?
Yeah, so Gary and I handle a lot of the outside sales at Hunts. So that means we're typically traveling to a lot of trade shows and photography conferences all over the country, bringing in new business and new customers for Hunts that is outside of our local area. So on an average year, we're probably doing 40 to 50 events on varying scales all over the entire country, which is awesome. It allows us to travel, interact, meet new photographers, work with new groups. And we were on the road almost every other weekend, traveling to an event on and off a plane, or driving our van that we load up with gear and equipment to go to local events. We were always on the move. We were not at home very often. And once last March hit, that all changed. We haven't really done any shows or events pretty much since last March in person, besides one or two very small little gatherings. Other than that, all of the major trade shows and conferences we're normally doing were all canceled or postponed till the following year. So we kind of quickly had to shift gears and figure out, okay, what are we going to do to stay in touch with all of our customers and still continue to work with these groups and organizations that we've been working with for so many years at in-person events? Now that we can't have these in-person events, what is left for us to do? Because that's really all we knew, and that's all that we were really kind of focusing on. And we were kind of thrown a wrench into the pile here and said, okay, we cannot do that anymore. What are we going to do in order to continue to work with everybody? So we quickly noticed that a lot of kind of clubs and groups were starting to utilize Zoom to have different meetings and have different kind of programs. And we kind of realized, hey, why can't we do that ourselves and work more with some of these camera clubs and some of these photography groups and some of these conferences, and just do things that we were doing in person, but just take it and shift it over to a virtual platform. So nowadays, Gary and I are on Zoom almost every single night of the week with a different camera club or a different photography group somewhere around the country. To this point, we've probably done 5 or 6 virtual conferences, multi-day virtual events, which have been really awesome. Definitely a different experience than doing things in person, but in some ways it's allowed us to, again, interact on a more personal level with the attendees. When we're traveling to events in person, we have a lot of expenses that we have to cover and have to sell a certain amount of products to actually cover those expenses that we have. But doing things virtually, our expenses are very minimal, if any at all. And that really allows us to be more personal and being able to build closer working relationships with the attendees, getting to know them better, and really focus on education. That's really been a big thing we've been doing this past year, is putting a really strong emphasis on education, on all types of photography and also video and kind of post-processing and printing as well. We have tons and tons of programs now that we're offering at different clubs and different groups, and also working on lining some of those up with some of these conferences and multi-day virtual events as well. And we're working now with more photographers and more customers than honestly ever before. Granted, no, we're not meeting with them in person, interacting with them in person, but once we get back to that point where we're able to start going to some of these events again and start traveling again, we'll have that really strong basis that we've built up over this past year, getting to know people better virtually, so that when we do get to meet them in person, interact with them in person, it's going to be that much better. So for us, it's really been definitely an adjustment, but I think it's been an adjustment for the good. It's allowed us to kind of take a step back, realize what's important to us, and at the end of the day, that's building relationships with our customers for the long term. It's one thing for a customer to buy from us one time at an event or a trade show because we have a good discount for that event. But if they're not coming back to us with their regular purchases, at the end of the day, that's not really as important to us as if somebody were to come to us to an event. We get to know them a little bit better. Maybe they don't buy anything physically there, but then they start to reach out to us more because they got to know us a little bit better and they got to work with us, that they're comfortable with hunts, even though we may not be local to them, that they feel confident reaching out to us, knowing that we're going to take care of them for whatever they may need. And that's really been a strong point that we've kind of tried to drive home this past year, is that we really want to build long-term relationships with all of our customers and have them work with us whenever they need gear or equipment, not just when we're at a trade show or an event. So that's really kind of been our main focus. And we've really been doing that through education. We have probably over 300 program topics now that we're offering to these different groups and to these different clubs. And that covers probably 30 or 40 different photographers who we've met over the years and have built really great working relationships with. I've done probably 4 or 5 different program topics, and I'm doing probably at least one program a week on average where I'm physically presenting. And we're working with a lot of industry reps as well, from different vendors, from different camera companies, lens companies, accessories, to come on and give presentations as well. So we've really been able to connect with so many more people now than ever before. We've built stronger working relationships with these vendors and the reps from these vendors, and are having more regular calls and more regular meetings with them. And if anything, I think it's really strengthened our business. Sure, early on it was kind of tough to do that and tough to figure out what we were going to do. But as time went along, it's just gotten easier, and we've kind of figured out this almost algorithm that works well now, that we know what's going to work. We know how this virtual world kind of acts and what people are looking for and what people aren't looking for. And for us, it's been really great that even when we do get to go back to in-person events and we do get to start traveling again, we're still going to be doing a lot of these virtual programs, especially with the groups and the camera clubs that are a little bit smaller, that may not warrant us to actually physically travel to them. It's a lot of expense to travel to some of these places, and we got to pay for food and gas or airplane tickets or hotels or whatever it may be. And all that really adds up. But if we can meet with these groups multiple times throughout the year, I think that's going to go much further than if we were just to meet with them once a year in person. So we're really excited for what the future has to bring. And for the in-person events that we do plan on going back to, because we definitely are looking forward to going back to in-person events and working with people hands-on, is really we want to be more involved with other photo excursions or photo walks or just photographic opportunities where we can actually be in the field working with the attendees at these conferences and at these events, possibly have some loaner gear and loaner equipment for them to try out in the field, get some real-world use with some of these newer products, and just be there to help them out, suggest different things, help them if they have questions on setting or anything technical, and really just be there to show them that we're here to support them in their own photography and not just here to sell them products. Yes, at the end of the day, we would love for them to purchase all of their equipment from us. And hopefully by building these relationships, that's what it's going to result in. But we really want to be able to be more interactive and more hands-on and actually get to know the attendees better and know the photographers better, so we can better suggest certain products that may be suitable for them and recommend different things.
You do photo walks locally, kind of, or give us an example of how you do photo walks.
Yeah, so
Nationally.
we do have our own education team, which is separate from what Gary and I do, but Hunts does have our own education team, which consists of about 3 or 4 people, doing programs and classes and also leading photo walks and photo excursions, where we do multi-day trips to different parts of the world, which is really exciting. We do a lot of photo walks locally with our own education team, where we get 10 to 15 people together, going to a certain location, have a little bit of instruction for a couple of hours, and you get to kind of hang out with some other like-minded photographers, learn a little bit about photography, and just go shoot in a really cool location. And some of these events and conferences that we're going to now are, I believe, going to start incorporating more of that. I think that's what people are going to be looking for. There were events that we've done in the past where there were shooting opportunities. I don't foresee people kind of going to an event now just to sit inside a conference room all day long to listen to a speaker when they can easily do that from home. I think people are going to want to be out, they're going to want to be shooting. And in order for these conferences to kind of survive, I think they're going to have to incorporate some of that into it. For instance, we have an event coming up in October, I believe, with the Photographic Society of America, PSA, which is a long time, or a group that we've been a long time sponsor of, and we've been working with them for many, many years. And they're actually doing some photographing in the Badlands, and some day trips, some half-day trips, where we're going to be trying to be involved more with that. Well, there's also some stuff going on back in the conference center. So we're going to try to be more involved with the actual shooting opportunities and the actual photographic opportunities, and be there working hands-on with some of these attendees and bringing gear and equipment for them to try out. That, yes, we would typically have this gear and equipment there for them to buy at the event, but typically it's stuff that's packaged, it's brand new in the box, that we're really not letting people try out and utilize. But now we can allow them to try and use some of these products. And then if they want to go ahead and purchase something, they'll still have the ability to do that. But now they actually got some experience with that product to know if that's really going to be suitable for them or not. So that's more of the approach we're going to take moving forward with some of these in-person events. And I know I'm personally really looking forward to that. I love being able to work with the attendees hands-on, recommend different gear and equipment, and be out in the field.
And a quick question about the photo walks. Are these open to all skill sets, or are you really recommending a skill set at a certain level?
Yeah, I mean, for the ones that we're doing locally, it's really open to all skill sets. Whether you're just getting into photography or you're an advanced photographer, we do try to tether it towards really whatever your skill level may be. So we're trying to open it up to anybody who is interested in coming out to take photos, whether you're using a smartphone or a very high-end DSLR or mirrorless camera. We do try to make them open to everybody, and we can kind of vary the education based on who is actually there and work with them a little bit more hands-on. The photo walks are really nice because you get some actually real-world experience. You get some education out in the field. It's not something where you're sitting in the classroom trying to absorb all that information and then going out to practice it yourself. You're practicing it and learning it in real time. So you get real-time feedback on what you're actually photographing and what you're actually doing, which has been really awesome.
Noah, at some of these events when they're able to touch the stuff and use the stuff, is there a way then to actually, now I want to rent it for a week or a month or whatever and take it home before I pull the big trigger and take that next leap? Do you have a way to jump in that world?
So for right now, and probably the foreseeable future, we do have rentals, but it's only for our local kind of customers, local pickup only. We're not doing any rentals that are being shipped out outside of our local area. It's kind of for pickup only. Now that may change at some point in the future, but we do have really great working relationships with companies like LensPro2Go, which is actually another Massachusetts-based company that does rentals, and you can rent stuff directly off of their website and also borrow lenses. Yep. So there are other rental houses that we do recommend to our photographers who are working with, saying if they want to take, again, this product home or try it out for a little bit of an extended period of time, we're usually recommending those if they're not local to our area, because we do work very closely with both of those companies.
Yeah, because I always tell my students, just go try it. Whatever tool you have, learn to use it to the max of its potential, and then go try other tools, however long you need to, until you figure out what's the right one.
That's great.
Yeah, exactly. You can read so many reviews and look at so many sample photos, but until you actually get it into your hands and utilize it yourself, it can be hard to make those decisions if it's going to be the right product for you or not. So I'm a big advocate for renting gear before you buy it, especially if it's a very high dollar product. It can be tough to make those purchases without actually utilizing it first. So being able to give these attendees the chance to kind of play around with some of this equipment is something we're really excited to do. It's something that we kind of started doing a little bit of before the pandemic hit. And it was really great. We had some gear and equipment there for people to try out. Even if that specific vendor was not there at the show, we were kind of working with them to send in some equipment for the attendees. And we're just going to look at doing more of that now, because I really do believe that with these in-person events, people do want to be out and shooting again. They don't want to travel across the country to go to a conference to sit inside half the day or sit inside all day long listening to people speak in a conference room. I don't foresee people wanting to do that. I really do believe people want to get back out and want to get to be shooting again.
So side story, I used to be a full-blown Canon guy, but I bugged you guys. I was looking to go to the Mirrorless, and I was able to get a trial, the Sony, with an adapter so I can use all my Canon lenses, but I got the Sony body, and I was actually in Yosemite for 10 days with that setup, and that sold me on the Sony unit. So that is a great way to do it.
Exactly.
So Noah, since there's been some talk about education and seems a lot of interest, why don't you just show them, give them a little breakdown of our education, on our in-person stuff, our trips that we have planned, and our online classes. Also, maybe want to talk a little bit about our lab service that we've really expanded. And why don't you just talk briefly about our new online thing that we've added. We're always trying to improve our website. We've just added this new feature. Why don't you go through those, why don't you share those things?
Yeah, let me share my screen really quickly here. Give me a second. I can pull this stuff up. This is the screen that I want. There we go. So this is the front page of our website. If you just Google search Hunt's Photo and Video or put huntsphotoandvideo.com, it'll bring you right here. This is kind of the landing page you'll come to. As I mentioned, we do have rentals here, but it is for kind of local pickup only right now. Our photo education in Hunt's Picks, which is our lab service, which I'll talk about in a minute, but our front page will kind of bring you to the different specials and promotions that we have going on any day. And these are updated on a pretty almost daily basis. So you can come and browse this, and it'll probably look different than it was the day before, which is really exciting. We're constantly trying to improve and add things onto our website. And another thing that we've added is this chat feature right down here, where we have a live chat. And right now we do have somebody online where they're going to answer your questions in real time. So if you're browsing on our website and have any questions about a certain product or a pricing on something maybe not being correct or whatever it may be, you can just go ahead and ask us a question there in live real time. If somebody is live online, it's going to say that there is somebody online, and you can get a response back almost instantly. And if somebody is, yeah, go ahead.
Is that chat feature available during normal business hours for your company? Or
it is
this...
typically normal business hours, so typically like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. We do have sometimes people on the weekend as well. But if somebody's not live online, it'll say email us, and that email will be sent out to a handful of different people who will actually receive that. So you'll get a response back relatively quickly, even if we don't have somebody live in real time here to address your questions. So that's a really exciting feature that we added relatively recently. And as Gary mentioned, we're always trying to improve our website and add on new features. As Gary mentioned, and we've been talking about education, Hunts does have its own education department, kind of separate from what Gary and I are doing with trade shows and events that we're doing really with our local community, and is also open to the outside of New England community as well. One thing that we've done last year is start a lot of online classes, again, separate from what Gary and I have been responsible for, but we have a whole list of online courses now that we're offering. So if you're looking for more education and more learning, we have a bunch of different online classes that we offer. We have different special guests that we're bringing on to teach different programs. And then we also have some recurring online programs that have been pretty popular as well, such as Lightroom editing, just photography basics, learning the basics of photography. And then also some more creative programs as well, and some special guest programs, which are really exciting. One we actually have coming up next week that I'm really looking forward to is this program about drone photography and videography, which is getting more and more popular. So we have a whole program with a special guest, Jamie Malcolm Brown, which I'm really looking forward to. That one's going to be really awesome. And this is all open to no matter where you are in the country, because it's all virtual, or even the world. Even if you're not based in the US, this is something that's open to everybody, which we really love. And if you happen to miss a class that was done virtually, you can also come to the top here and purchase classes that we have already lived, or we've already done live. You can purchase the recording to go back and watch it as many times as you would like. And if you do buy and watch the live session, you'll still have access to the recording afterwards as well. As we were talking about photo walks, we have a whole tab here for photo walks, which again are usually done locally. So Sturbridge Village is a historical village that is a historical reenactment. So you go there and everything is kind of as it was. I forget the time frame of when they're kind of reenacting, but it's a very popular place to go and photograph and get some kind of old time photos, which is really exciting. That one's always been really popular. One here in Davis Square, which is a very kind of happening area just outside of Boston. Sunrise, again in Lynn, Mass, which is just outside of Boston. We're doing one here in Concord, which is going to be in a wildlife park for some more wildlife images. So we have a lot of these different photo walks, which are done throughout New England that really do target our local audience. But if you guys are traveling to New England and want to attend some of these are always constantly being updated on our website. And we have different types of photo walks for no matter what style of photography you're doing, whether it be landscape or wildlife or macro, a bunch of different things. So those are really exciting for our local area. And then the last thing here is photo adventures, which we do all over the world. So Havana, which has been a very popular one. I believe that one has sold out along with Iceland. So we're doing some more extensive photo trips all over the entire world, Tanzania, Italy, Alaska. So we have these photo trips that we're doing that are multi-day trips, and prices will vary, and all the information for them is on our website. But if you guys are looking to take some more trips and start doing some more traveling, you can check out these on our website as well. Again, these are something that is separate from what Gary and I do. I know personally I would love to go on some of these trips, and maybe I can convince them to let me tag along for one of them, but some really awesome opportunities, and some of these do sell out pretty quickly when we go live with them, because it is a very small group. We try to keep it very small, very personal, and very hands-on. We're there for the attendees. We're there to help them out. We're there to help them learn and recommend different things. We're not going there to shoot for ourselves. We're really going there to educate and help out all of the attendees and get them to capture the best images that they can get while they're there for that short period of time. So that is really awesome as well. That's all of our education offerings that we have internally. And then also our lab service, which is Hunt's Picks, which you can also navigate to from the landing page of our website, which will bring you over to our lab where you can get prints made, you can get photo gifts made, canvas, metal prints, you can pretty much anything you can print on, you're probably going to have access to ordering it off of our Hunt's Picks website. Many of the fine art prints and the canvas wrapping is done in-house. Some more of the kind of photo gifts and the more obscure things are sent out to another lab that we work with, a larger scale lab. But a lot of the fine art prints, if not all of the fine art prints, are all going to be printed right in-house. We have a lab in the basement of our store in Melrose, which is our flagship location just outside of Boston. So we have a massive lab there where we're doing printing every single day of the week for all of our customers, both locally and nationally. So if you guys are looking to get prints made as well, that's another thing that we offer on top of that.
Very cool. Crazy great stuff.
So yeah, so I just want to reinforce that all our classes that we do, the stuff that we do, presentation for camera clubs or virtual events, you know, because when we were in person, we had expenses covered. I had to take a little more of a high approach. I try not to be a high purchase salesperson, but when I'm at an event and I have expenses covered, I have to be a little more aggressive because I can't just go there and just be nice, be type of thing and be type of thing and say, oh, it's great, but I didn't sell anything. Come back home and answer that question why I lost money going there. But so I have to be a little more high purchase, I have to be a little more aggressive. But in the virtual world, because my expenses are so less expensive, I can take a much more softer approach and much more soft approach that I prefer to take and be more personal, be more open. Not that I'm not personal in person, but have more type things. So we've taken a different approach than I'd say most retailers. And as far as these type of events that we do, it's more education first, sales second. We don't, anything that we do, and we tell when we reach out to photographers or reaching out to vendors, we tell them straight up, we're happy to suggest you to do programs, but they have to be educational, they have to be inspiring. We want you guys to go away learning from it and learning away from it, and hopefully go out inspired, go out and shoot. And then maybe when you're ready, you'll call me for that filter, call me for that tripod. But we want, I can't reinforce enough, education first, sales second. We don't come on and saying, here's this product, go out and buy. We have a sale, here's a link to it, do it. Now we will follow up afterwards with the opportunity to buy stuff, but that the programs on things are not here. This is a great product, go out and buy it. It's more education, and I can't stress that enough. And I can tell you from the fact by taking this approach, we've gotten more people reach out to us and build more strong relationships that way than trying to do it the other way. So it's worked very well, and that's really who I am. I don't like hard selling anybody. So that's just me as a person. I'm a salesperson, but I have a heart, and I'm there for the customer. I want to be there for the customer and get them the right thing, and not sell them something just because I'm making a big spiff off it or because I'm making a big sale. I'd rather you not buy that $10,000 lens and buy that $200 if that's what works for you better. So I'm all about customer first and finding the right gear that's going to fit for the customer, not what's going to make Hunts more money. I just can't stress that enough. You want to elaborate on that, Noah?
No, I mean, I think you make a good point. I mean, for me, I'm not going to sell somebody something just to make money on it. At the end of the day, I want the gear to be the right fit for the customer and for that photographer. Just because one lens or one accessory is working great for someone doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work as good for the next person. So really trying to find the right product for the right person is what I love to do most, and trying to talk with people and help them find the right gear and equipment and work with them one-on-one when I have the opportunity to do so is something that I really love. And talking about gear and talking about equipment, at the end of the day, that's really one of my favorite things to do. I love the gear and equipment myself, and I love talking about it. I'm very fortunate to be able to get to use some of the latest and greatest gear through working with Hunts, and being able to share that with other people is something that I love to do, and helping them find the best gear and the best equipment for them at the end of the day is what's most important, not what is most expensive. So that's really the approach that Gary and I have always tried to take with all of our customers, and will always be that way.
But no, I was just showing the new lens that I got for you guys, because this macro lens was the right lens, and I worked with Noah on that to yep, that's the right lens for me now, and it was just great.
But speaking of gear, I'd be very curious on hearing from both you and Noah and Gary. What are some up and coming trends in photography gear that you're seeing? I know mirrorless cameras are definitely taking off, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so I mean, mirrorless camera is probably the biggest one as far as a category of gear and equipment. I do believe mirrorless cameras are definitely the future of photography. I actually have a full, almost hour-long program that I do covering mirrorless cameras and their different technologies, the different offerings that you're going to get. I really do believe that that is the future of the photography industry.
Can you give us a high-level overview on what makes a mirrorless camera so fantastic?
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of run down a couple of quick things. I mean, one, the size and weight savings that you can possibly see is really big. That's really a big reason that a lot of photographers are switching over is to get that size and weight savings. Some brands are going to give you better size and weight savings than others, but there's a lot of different options out there to actually cut back and reduce your size and weight from the current DSLR system that you're using. So that's one big reason. The electronic viewfinder, in my opinion, is probably one of my favorite features of these mirrorless cameras, where you get to see your exposure and see your depth of field in real time. You're getting a real-time preview, excuse me, of what your final image will actually look like. So you can be looking through the viewfinder and looking at your exposure and knowing if you need to make any adjustments in real time. If it looks too dark or if it looks too bright, you can very quickly compensate for that. You don't have to worry or rely on the light meter inside of your optical viewfinder to tell you if your exposure is correct or not, which is not always accurate depending what metering mode you're in and other variables that you may be photographing under. So the electronic viewfinder is another huge advantage. Many of these mirrorless cameras now have in-body stabilization, actually stabilization that's done directly on the sensor. So that sensor is actually kind of free floating in a way inside of the camera and moving around to compensate for any shake or any motion. So you can shoot at really low shutter speeds handheld now. You don't have to worry about boosting up your ISO nearly as high. And you can stabilize lenses that didn't have stabilization to begin with. So that's another big advantage. The adaptability, you can really adapt a lot of different lenses to these cameras, which is something that I enjoy doing. I still personally shoot a lot of film, and I can adapt different film lenses onto my mirrorless camera that may have been produced 40, 50 years ago, that weren't even, they didn't even realize that this is going to be where we're at today, where we can adapt these lenses onto a digital camera that was never even considered. But now with today's technology and with these mirrorless cameras, there's a lot of different adapters out there to play around with different styles of lenses, different brands of lenses, and utilize those now on these mirrorless cameras. Video performance is definitely a huge upgrade now on the mirrorless as well, especially tied in with the in-body stabilization. So there's a lot of different kind of advantages that you can see. So you can do silent shooting now, so shoot completely silently with these mirrorless cameras. So I do see a lot of benefits to mirrorless. I personally have been shooting with one for a little over 3 years, and I've really loved it. And I don't have any plans of going back to a DSLR, probably ever. And I think that's the direction most of these camera companies are headed. Nikon, Canon, they're really putting a lot of their efforts into mirrorless. And I don't want to say completely forgetting about their DSLRs, but really all the latest and greatest technology is going into their newer mirrorless systems. So I do believe that's the way the industry is headed. Kind of a similar transition from when film went to digital. Now we're seeing a transition from DSLR to mirrorless. And I do believe that at one point, not everybody, but the majority of people will probably be using mirrorless cameras maybe 5-10 years from now. And DSLRs will kind of be what film cameras are today, or what film cameras have been for the past 10-15 years. Just kind of a secondary thing, or just a different type of photography. But going forward, I really do think mirrorless is going to be the future.
2 questions in that world. Why was Canon so late to the game with a really great mirrorless? And secondly, the whole phone side, phones are getting so good. So is the DSLR or the mirrorless world shrinking in comparison to the phones, or is it about the same and phones are just doing more also?
I mean, that's a good question. As far as Canon goes, being late to the game, I don't have a specific answer as to why they did come in so late. I mean, they have been producing mirrorless cameras for a decent bit of time. They have their EOS M series, which is their APS-C sized mirrorless platform, which has been around for quite a number of years, but it did take them some time to kind of come out with something full frame and come up with something competitive full frame as well. The new R5 and the R6, which came out last year, are amazing cameras, but they are a little bit behind the curve, I would say, similar with Nikon. I think they were just trying to kind of hold on to that DSLR technology and hold on to it as long as they could. But it was getting to a point where mirrorless cameras from other manufacturers were starting to surpass what some of those DSLRs were capable of. So I think Canon and Nikon realized that, hey, we need to start kind of pushing into this mirrorless world. And they have been a little bit behind, but they are now starting to catch up, and there are cameras out there that are on par with some of the other mirrorless manufacturers. Really now that they need to work on, in my opinion, is coming out with more lenses. More lenses for both the mirrorless systems for Nikon and Canon. But the camera bodies are up to par with what a lot of the other companies are doing now. And I think they were just probably trying to hold on to their DSLR lineup as long as possible. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. That's just kind of my personal thoughts and feelings on it. And yeah, I definitely think that's going to be the direction that both of them are headed in now.
In the phone world.
Does anybody,
Yeah.
does anybody have any, before we get on to maybe the, a little more traveling type thing, or virtual conference I want guys to talk to you about, does anybody have any questions in the chat that people have for us? You also want to put down your your email address and my email address, how they can get in touch with us?
Yeah, I'll put that down in the comment section. I am monitoring it. I did not see anything specifically come in, but Wayne, I'll come back to your question about phones in a second here, but I'm just going to put our emails down here in the chat for everybody.
Actually, while we're talking and putting down, is there anything actually that you want to let the people know about from Facebook or on your end that you want to let the audience know about that's listening?
Not at this moment, although I'm sure by the end of our session, I may have a few questions.
Okay.
So going back to Wayne's question about phones, yeah, phones are definitely getting better and better. I'm seeing a lot of people now start to do phone photography, but I think a lot of the photographers who are doing phone photography are not getting rid of their current camera system. It's something that they can just do on the side, or just do when they don't want to carry their full camera system with them. Sure. We have a photographer that we're working with now based out of Chicago who has really gotten heavily into phone photography, but he's still doing a lot with his full frame mirrorless system as well. It's just kind of a different platform. It's a different tool. And I think there's certain occasions where a phone is great. You don't want to carry around your full system with you. A phone is a camera that you have with you pretty much at all times. Right. And the best camera that you have is the one that you have with you. So if you don't have a camera with you, then you're not going to be able to take that photo. So a phone is something we have with us at all times, or most people have with it at all times, and they can capture images when maybe they don't even have their camera. Yes, they are getting better, and yes, some of them are capable of shooting RAW now and are getting better resolution, but I don't think they're ever going to be at a point where they're going to overcome DSLRs or mirrorless cameras just because of the sensor size. The limitations of the sensors that you can put into these cameras, you're not going to be able to compete with a camera that has a full frame APS-C or even a micro four thirds size sensor because they are so tiny. So phones are great for social media and viewing them on your phone or viewing them on a computer. But if you want to do any cropping, do any printing, that's really when it starts to fall apart. So I think the phones have a place in the photography world, and it's great for social media to share information quickly, to be able to snap a photo and boom, post it on social media. It's very instant. It's a very instant world that we're living in now. Everything is becoming quicker and quicker. And I just think that phones are a different tool that we can utilize now in our photography, but I don't foresee them ever overcoming DSLR or mirrorless cameras unless there's some crazy new technology where they can create these tiny sensors that are capable of amazing image quality and amazing resolution. I don't foresee them really overcoming or overtaking actual physical cameras.
In my beginner classes for brand newbies coming in, I frequently get the request of, all I have is a phone. Can you teach me on a phone? And like, yep, we do that.
Yeah.
But as they advance, they tend to jump to a real, full-blown camera at that point.
Yeah, and there are styles of photography that you just can't really do with the phone, whether it be wildlife photography or sports photography. That's just not the right tool for the job. That you can't really zoom in with these cameras. And even if you do put an external lens on there, it's not going to be that great. So there are still certain styles of photography that are always going to be more suitable with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, just because of the lens selection, first and foremost, and also the sensor size. So it's definitely the right time and the right place for each of them. But I definitely do think they are a great tool. I take photos with my phone probably almost daily, just random things that I see or random things that are going on that I just want to remember, or just use it as a tool just to document things or just as a way to take notes. It's a great tool, but I don't think it'll ever replace the cameras that we have today.
Cool.
So Noah, you want to want to show up the virtual conference we have coming up next weekend and talk a little bit about that conference?
Yeah, so really exciting event that we are in partner with next weekend. Let's pull this up really quickly here. Is Out of Chicago Live. So Out of Chicago is a conference that we've been working with for probably 6 or 7 years now. They started out as a conference, a photography conference in Chicago, but they've expanded to doing a lot more than that. Now they're actually doing a couple of virtual conferences. This will actually be the third one that they've done since the pandemic, which is actually coming up next weekend, which we're really excited to be a partner on. Out of Chicago, a lot of their events are heavily landscape and travel focused. My background image of Yosemite National Park was actually taken at one of their events last year in February at their Out of Yosemite conference. And they do a lot of other kind of amazing location conferences where you're in these beautiful locations, these very scenic locations, and you're getting instruction from some of the best photographers in the industry. Places such as the Oregon coast, Yosemite. They're going to be going to Death Valley next year. They've done Acadia National Park up near where I am a couple of times. Moab, Utah. I've been with them twice on 2 Moab, Utah conferences. So they go to some amazing places where you're in these beautiful locations when you're getting instruction from some of the best landscape and other style photographers in the industry, which is an amazing experience. And now they're bringing that to a virtual level where they're still using a lot of those same instructors that are typically teaching in person, but now bring all of them together to come on to do a virtual conference. So you're getting some really big name people in the industry, some very well-known photographers, not just landscape, but macro, a little bit of wildlife as well, some more creative photography, some street photography thrown in here as well. All coming together for one virtual conference, which is actually coming up next weekend. So you're going to get access to all of these amazing programs. Many of them are also doing multiple programs and multiple sessions. So you're going to get access to a ton of different things, and they're all being recorded, which is a really nice thing about this virtual world is we can record things to go back and rewatch them. And Out of Chicago is giving everybody access for an entire year to go back and watch them as many times as they want, because there are so many programs and there's going to be so much information that's going to be hard to absorb all of it in one weekend. So you're going to want to go back and rewatch it, which you have the opportunity to do for an entire year. So we're really excited to work with them. They're some of my favorite events that we do in person just because of some of the amazing locations that we get to go to, and I get to work with the attendees out in the field and have gear and equipment there to try out. They're definitely some of my favorite events. I'll put a link to it in the comments of the video as well, so people can go check this out. It's going on again next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday all day long. We've lined up a couple of presentations Friday and Saturday night. We're going to be doing some kind of virtual parties after the programs are done for the day. Have a Zoom room going on with some different virtual parties, some giveaways, and some different fun and exciting programs and some different fun and exciting presentations in the evening as well. So really looking forward to that. It's an amazing group if you guys aren't familiar with it. And I'm looking forward to getting back to traveling with them in person again as well. They're supposed to be live in person this spring or this fall, early fall, for a flower and garden macro conference, which is really, really popular. If you're interested into macro photography and flower and garden photography, that conference is widely popular. And then they're going back to Acadia this October, which I'm looking forward to, especially being only a couple of hours from me up here in Maine. So they do have some amazing opportunities, and this is definitely an event to check out for some great photo education.
So Noah, for those who may not be able to attend this weekend, or next weekend, what are some other conferences that you're really looking forward to this year, either by the same company or by different ones in the industry?
Yeah, so what else do we have going on? So we are a big advocate for a lot of birding and wildlife conventions. That has been something that we've become really strongly invested in. So coming up in May, we're working with an organization called the Biggest Week in American Birding, which is a 5-day birding and wildlife festival with both photography and just kind of birding programs and presentations. That one I'm looking forward to as well. If people have an interest in kind of more wildlife and birding specific photography, that one is really exciting, coming up in May. And then we kind of start to get back to some in-person events come through the summer and into next year. The Acadia one, which I mentioned in October, I'll be at an event in Arizona with the Tucson Audubon Society doing the Arizona Birding Festival, which has a lot of photography aspects to it as well. That event that I mentioned, PSA, Photographic Society of America, that's something that's open to anybody to become a member of. You can become a member and attend their conference. That's going to be in, I believe, August or September. And that one is really exciting. They're going to be in, I believe, North Dakota or South Dakota, wherever the Badlands are. And
South Dakota.
South Dakota, that's the one. That's going to be in South Dakota. That is, again, only for PSA members, but everybody has the ability to sign up as a PSA member with their local PSA chapter. That's a really exciting one as well. What else, Gary? Anything else that you can think of that I'm kind of leaving out?
You wanna talk about the today, the call we had today about the young photographers, day that we're planning, and want to talk about the conference we just came on board with regarding churches that we came on board with?
Yeah, so coming up, we actually had a call today with a local PPA group, a Professional Photographer Association of Connecticut, which is a group that we've worked with for a long time, and we're working on coming up with like a one-day photography event with them that we're going to open up to the entire public. It's not just going to be for their members, and working on kind of targeting it around younger photographers to come on and present for the entire day, where we're probably going to line up 4 or 5 young photographers to come on and do presentations for the entire day. No specific information on that yet. We're looking at probably doing sometime at the end of May is what we're looking at right now. But definitely add Gary as a friend on Facebook. That's really where we're posting and sharing a lot of information about these events, and they're really the best way to keep up with it. He does a lot of sharing and posting of these programs and events that we're associated with over on his page. So you can add him as a friend to kind of keep up with all of that and just kind of keep track with what we're doing and what we have going on. The church one is probably not as suitable for this audience because it's really focused for churches locally. But if people are religious and attend church,
I think go for it, because I'm involved. I go to a large church, and they have a very large photography group in the church, and a great one.
Awesome. Well, that's very fitting then. So I take back what I said. There's a conference coming up in October, at the end of October. It's a new event that we just started working with this past year called SALT, S-A-L-T, which is a media conference for churches. So a lot of people coming in to learn about kind of the latest and greatest technologies for broadcasting, audio, visual, photo and video, all of that kind of combined into an entire conference. For churches specifically. A lot of churches now are doing things virtually and doing a lot of audio and video recording. So that conference is completely based around that specifically, which is going to be really exciting. It's a completely new group for us, a brand new event. We're really looking forward to it. It's going to be just outside of Nashville, maybe 15, 20 minutes outside of Nashville. So that will be really fun. We're really looking forward to that as well. It's the end of October. And again, that is called SALT, S-A-L-T, is the name of that conference. I don't know if that's actually stands for anything or if that's just the name of the conference. It may stand for something, but off the top of my head, I don't remember what it stands for. So that's another exciting one as well.
How'd you get plugged in with them, or what was that connection?
We were actually referred to them through another photographer that we worked with. I forget the name of the photographer off the top of my head, but just somebody that we had been working with just mentioned to us saying, hey, I'm aware of this event that's going on that you guys should maybe look at being a partner with. I think it'd be a great opportunity. So that's been something that we've been really grateful for, is the great relationships that we built. People are bringing new ideas and new opportunities to us all the time. So it's been really exciting.
Great stuff.
You want to tell them about that, about the new event that we came on in January of? I've always wanted to do more sports photography and volume sports. You want to just talk briefly about that sports photography event that we did in January that we plan on?
Another new event we did this past year in January was called SPAC, S-P-A-C, which is a volume school and volume sports photography conference. So people doing a lot of school photos, sports photos for schools, all based around that. Another brand new group that we came on board with, which has been really exciting. Again, we've been able to branch out and reach out to a lot more groups and organizations now because of this pandemic. It's really allowed us to kind of reach out and work with so many more people, SPAC being one of them. This year it was done virtually back in January, and it was really exciting for us to work with a brand new audience and a brand new group of people. They are planning on going back to in-person in 2022. Their conference is typically in Las Vegas every year, which is always a good time. So we're looking at going back to there in person in 2022 to work with that group. So if anybody has an interest in kind of volume school and volume sports photography, that's another event that we're a part of. So we do events on all different types of photography: landscape, nature, wildlife, macro, churches now, schools and sports photography. So we do events that cover pretty much the entire spectrum.
So in closing up, what the pandemic has really allowed me to do, I've always wanted to go after a lot more different market and different type of things, but I just, quite frankly, because I was on the road every single weekend, I just didn't have the time, the resources, and the time to put into it. And the one big thing that I see a lot of people do, my dad was the one very arrogant that told me that type of thing is, but a lot of people don't try. A lot of people try to do everything, but you got to know your time. You got to know what you can do and do well at, and focus what you do well at, and not try. If you don't do it well, just don't do it, because it can come back and hurt you more than it help you. My dad was a big advocate of that, teaching me that. So I really didn't have the time to really focus on other things. I was so devoted to that, and it was working really well. And I wasn't willing to take the risk of jeopardizing what I was doing so well to try to explore these other markets that I wanted to go after. But with the pandemic, it hit. It allowed me, because I was working home now, it allowed me to really dive into other things that I've been looking to get into the last 15 years, and I just didn't have time to do it. So doing this virtually, again, going back to earlier you said, it allowed me to open up my door and open my market and reach more opportunities. But again, what you put into something is what you get out of something. And you can't just, I think what a lot of people do is they go into something, they go high into it, and after a month, they're not getting success, and they totally give up. You have to take it, you have to give, if you're investing something, you really believe in it, I believe it takes you a good 6 months to 2 years to really see the results. And you got to put the time into it. You can't just say, because I'm a rock star, or whatever you want to say, You can't just say, I'm going to put time into it and expect that people are just going to drool to you and come to you in a month. You have to put the work in. You have to have the work ethic. You got to put the time into it. The more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. But in today's world, unfortunately, people don't come to you. You got to go after them. You got to be proactive. And eventually, and then, even if you do have a name, you still have to be, you always got to be on top of the game. You always got to be proactive. You got to be looking for opportunities. You just can't sit back and say, I've been in this industry for 40 years. People are going to come to you, So I can't really stress that enough, that you have to be proactive and you have to be type out there. And I can tell you, I'm still very young. I'm 40, something like that. I've been in the industry since 13, started thing. But I can tell you today, if I was in this position when back in 9/11, when it happened in 9/11 and the Boston and the plane crash that happened in 9/11, that what I'm doing now, there's no way I could be doing now what I did for 9/11, because I did not have the following. I did not have the database. Thank God that during this time, in all my 10, 15 years of working at trade shows, I had the database, I had the following, I had the clientele. So it wasn't don't get me wrong, it was hard, but it was a little bit, I'm not saying it was easy, but I had the people to go back to and reach out to and build those relationships. If I didn't have those relationships doing trade shows 10 years, there's no way that I could accomplish what I could accomplish during this pandemic without that resource I had. And that, when I first started, it took me really 5 years to really get people to really say hunts. When the first year, people had no idea who it was. It took me 5 years to really establish myself, and it took me 10 years to really get my name to where I am today. So all I'm trying to say, it doesn't happen overnight. You got to put the time into it, and you got to put the work into it. You want to elaborate that, Noah, real quick? Anything else you want to put in that?
No, I mean, I think you covered it pretty well. I mean, we put a lot of time and a lot of time spent into working with our customers. Is something that we're really passionate about, and we really want to do everything we can to take care of our customers and support them and their photography. And been fortunate enough to have that customer following to work with, and to be able to work with so many amazing people over the years that through this virtual world, we've had a lot of people kind of reaching out to us and kind of thanking us for all the programs and everything that we've been offering them, and bringing the different speakers and presenters to their groups and to their organizations. So we love being a part of the photo community and being involved with everything that's going on, and just being here to help out in any way that we can with all of our customers and the photographers that we work with. So yeah, I think everything you said was very well said.
So I just want to elaborate on a couple of things real quick. So, so what I've always been striving for me is what I call, I've been so well at is specialty markets. Going back to the very beginning, not trying to be everything to everybody and going after everything. I've tried to go after really the markets that I pick to go after, the markets that I believe in, that I love, that I have a passion in, that I love. And those are the markets that, because I have a passion, because I love, those are the markets that motivate me to go after the markets. I had it was in my heart to do it. So instead of trying to do everything, I've tried to go after specialty markets and really focus on the markets that I have a love, passion in, and go up and put my full resource into those type of things. So specialty markets has been my specialty in how I build my business based on that. And I can tell you, for the most part, for me and Noah responsible for, most of my business has come from word of mouth or working with photography groups or camera clubs. Very little of my business has come from paid advertising. Majority of my business has come from word of mouth and working events. I'd say that's where I've gotten most of my business. So word of mouth is the best thing they can do for you. It can hurt you tremendously. It can hurt you tremendously, or it can help you tremendously. But you know, word of mouth is where most of my stuff has come from. So I just want to, you know, stress the specialty market is what I focus on, and how I do things. And I do it because I love what I do. And that's another thing. I personally do what I do because I love what I do. If I was doing this, yes, I have to make money. I have to pay my bills. I have to, you know, I don't want to be living on the street. I got to pay my bills, and I got some of that, but I do what I do because I love what I do. If I was doing this really to become $1 million here or make tons of money, I can tell you right now, I would not be in the photo industry. I'd be doing something else. I truly do what I do because I love what I do. I love working with people. I love building relationships, and I love trying to, you know, work with people and make people happy and stuff like that. Also, for the pandemic time, I think I've tried really hard to really bring the photography community closer and make it a more stronger community. So if you go on my Facebook page, I'm doing something. I type the Facebook page more to share inspiration and people that have inspiration and stuff, people that have really inspired, like photographers. I share their work on my page and don't really talk about myself or share my pictures. I bring it back and do more of my pages, more inspiration in sharing back to the photography community and recognizing them. So that's really what about me. And like I said, I've been so happy during this pandemic time. It's made me a stronger person, and I really enjoy this. And I've learned a lot of things from the thing. The first thing that I quickly learned from this pandemic time, I set 2 rules right away for myself during the pandemic time, so it would not allow me to fall back or get discouraged. The 2 things that I set right away, 2 weeks into the thing, so I stay positive, not be negative, was number 1 is that if you're going to go out with me in person, if you're going to talk to me on the phone, the 2 rules that I set right away was, we're not talking politics and we're not talking COVID. You can talk about anything else, but we're not talking those two things. I set those rules so it wouldn't let me down and wouldn't bring my thing down. If I was getting down, I would go for a walk and I just relieve my stress. Or I love ice cream, so I'd go get an ice cream. That would really relieve my stress and stuff like that. So that's just everything bit about me. Any closing remarks, Noah or Alice or Wayne, or anything you want to say to us? I mean, I look forward to doing more.
Yeah, Ashley,
I look forward to doing more.
Thoughts to close this up.
I look forward to doing more with Facebook group and building a working relationship with you guys and trying to bring more, everything we talk about, bringing more to your farm and becoming what I want to do with this Facebook group is again, stress. I don't want to be a salesperson to you guys. I want to be a resource to you. I want to be a friend. I want to be to help you out, guide you, assist you, question you, and be more than just sell your product. I can't stress that enough. So actually, you can close it up.
That's clear. Ashley, you have some thoughts to clear us up from our side?
Only that we were super thankful to have Noah and Gary with us here today. Certainly, if you do have any questions for them following the recording, we did leave their email addresses in the chat. So make sure to go check that out if you want to have any follow-up, or else, like they were mentioning earlier in our recording, go take a look at their website, see what classes are coming up near them, see what classes are coming up online that you can take advantage of. There's a ton of, like they were mentioning, great educational opportunities, and what better time to do it than now when we may not be able to travel as much. So hopefully when that time comes, we can be roaring and ready to go. And as always, a quick plug for their camera gear. If you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to their educational team and they'll be able to help you.
And one more, Noah is our first contact. Is that true, Gary? We should be sending most people through Noah as the first line of contact with hunts. Is
That is true. Yeah. People are welcome to reach out to me. Email is always the best way to get a hold of me. I do work Monday through Friday. Some weekends I'm working as well. So Monday through Friday, you'll get a response back pretty quickly. If you guys are looking for anything, have any questions on the weekend, I may not get back to you till Monday, but there are some weekends where I'm working as well. So yeah, reach out to me anytime you guys need anything. Again, if you're browsing our website, there's that chat feature as well, which you can utilize. If somebody's live online, you can get questions answered in real time. So we're here to help you guys out in any way that we can, and definitely look forward to doing more with everybody and getting to interact more with all the members and getting to know everybody better too. So really looking forward to it.
And I would encourage anyone who's watched the video, if you have any ideas on topics that you would like to hear in the future, just drop it in the chat below so that we can see those, Noah and Gary can see those, and we can start to curate content that starts to fit your needs.
And we certainly look forward to building a great relationship with you guys. We love everything you do, so it's great. Thanks for being with us here today. It was a great encouragement and lots of learning going on, just great content. So thanks a ton, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you. We'll be in touch. Thank you. Have a good one. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, Gary left, but